Welcome to the Small Business Made Simple podcast, brought to you by socialmediaandmarketing.com.au. Being in business is never easy, but it can be simple, or at least simpler. Join me, your host Jen Donovan, every week where we focus on marketing, social media, and working towards simplifying your business. You with me? Let's do this.
Gonna dream it big, 'cause someone out there listening. Everyone's got a voice to give, and it's time I heard you whistling, 'cause there's no point at all, in dreaming small.
Why, hey there. Welcome to episode 114 of the Small Business Made Simple podcast. Thank you, as always, for lending me your ears today. I know you have lots of choices out there, and I really do appreciate you making my podcast one of your choices. I am, of course, the host, Jen. If we haven't met before, if you're a first-time listener, then hey, super welcome to you. If you're a return listener, then you know exactly who I am. But I am, of course, the host, marketing thought leader, digital strategist, and coach for small businesses. And pretty much, I just love a small business with one goal for my business, and that is to help other small businesses make marketing a priority in their business. Because you know what? If you want to grow, you need to learn to market what you do. It's that simple. It's not easy, but it is that simple, which of course is my commitment to you on the so-named Small Business Made Simple podcast. Before we get into this week's episode, I'm just going to do a little plug here because I wanted to let you know really quickly that I have a second podcast launched just this week. Yep, if you can't get enough of my dulcet tones, then there is another podcast you can go and listen to. It's quite different from this one. It's called Stories from the Bush, and they're interviews of amazing rural small business owners from my other business, Spend With Us, Buy From a Bush Business. If you're not familiar with Spend With Us, Buy From a Bush Business, it's my side hustle. And it's basically Australia's premier online marketplace for rural and regional businesses. Think Amazon, but for rural businesses. And also attached to that is a Facebook group called Buy From a Bush Business that has over 310,000 members in it. Anyway, my podcast is their stories. So at the moment, season 1 has 10 stories of people who live and work in rural Australia. I loved making it. I really hope that, if that's something that you would like to go and listen to, that you will love listening to it. You can find Stories from the Bush in all of your podcast apps, as well as going to spendwithus.com.au and clicking on the podcast button there. Anyway, that's just my little plug, is my second podcast, Stories from the Bush. Okay, so back to this podcast. This episode came about because of a casual question in my Facebook group, Like-Minded Business Owners. If you haven't joined Like-Minded Business Owners, then go over there to Facebook when you finish listening to this and join. But there was a question that was asked about TikTok. I think that answer was, in response to the question of, do you use TikTok in your business? And someone wrote, "Oh no, not another thing I need to be doing," which is a valid point, right? We're all busy enough. Do we need to do another thing? It's like Clubhouse. I'm absolutely loving Clubhouse, but does that mean that you should be on it and loving it too? So I thought we could have a little discussion about where your energy should be going, and of course, bright, shiny object syndrome. There's lots of platforms you could be on, but which ones should you be on? And my answer is really quite short and sweet. You should be where your audience is, which makes total logical sense, doesn't it? We aren't on social media or sending emails or making podcasts for fun. Well, not really. Anyway, we're there to use them as a tool to attract an audience, to nurture an audience until they're ready to buy from us. And then we start using it to get them to buy from us again and to tell their friends about our products and our services. So that's basically why we are on social media, to get more sales and to get in front of more potential buyers, which is simple. Right? I think so. Noting there is a difference between simple and easy. This podcast is not called Small Business Made Easy for a reason. So some things can be quite simplistic in their idea, but it doesn't mean they're actually easy. So it comes back to knowing who your ideal client is, your ideal audience, your ideal avatar, whatever you like to call them. So who's your target audience? The audience that is most likely to buy your stuff, and where do they hang out? If you can get these two questions right, no matter how many times someone talks about TikTok or Clubhouse or LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever, you know what you need to do and whether you need to be on these platforms or not, because you know where your ideal audience is. Again, your ideal audience are the people most likely to buy from you. So where do these people hang out? And no matter how great someone else is doing on a platform that maybe you're not on, that's okay, because you are where you need to be to get enough sales to stay in business and to grow and be a profitable business. So clearly knowing your target audience is a marketing fundamental that you must get right. I've talked about it a lot. And I might add that you need to look at it every now and then. This isn't a set and forget thing, because your target audience are human beings. You know what? We change our minds, and we also like bright, shiny objects. So, we need to make sure that we are keeping up with our target audience as well. It isn't a set and forget thing. But it's more complicated these days, because let's take, for example, Instagram. Let's say your target audience is on Instagram. You've done the work. You're sure that that's where your cashed up people to nurture are hanging out. So you go all in on Instagram. But then you get there and you're like, well, do I do posts on my grid, or do I do IGTV, or do I do stories or reels, or all of it? And your head starts to pound. Again, you need to know your target audience. If you know your target audience, you know whether they are watching stories, or you know whether they're watching long form video on IGTV or Reels. And again, we're just taking Instagram for an example here. So it all comes back down to this knowing your ideal audience. And I must say that knowing demographics like age and sex and location and marital status and children and income, it's just not enough these days. You need to dig deeper, way deeper, with questions like, what keeps them up at night? Are they more likely to use Google or social media if they're searching for something? Do they read magazines or listen to podcasts? What are their non-negotiables in their everyday life? How do they enjoy learning? What's their biggest challenge you're trying to solve? Who do they follow? Who are their mentors and their heroes? And how do they like to communicate? By phone or text or DMs or emails? And the list goes on. So I guess you're probably thinking, okay, Jen, but how do I find this stuff out? Well, again, it's simple. You just need to do the research. It's not easy, but it's simple. You need to ask questions and put on your marketing hat and get on social media and watch what's happening on social media from a marketing perspective. You need to listen. I mean, like really actively listen to conversations that your ideal clients are having, and thinking about, what are the common words or themes that you keep hearing around that? Do you hear things like, I was listening to a podcast the other day, or I've just spent 2 hours watching Instagram Reels, or I'm having a break from social media for a while, or I've just read the most interesting blog. Like, what are your ideal audience talking about? Listening to learn is one of the skills as a small business owner we really need to harness. Or harness, I should say. People say stuff like this to us all the time, but it's whether or not we're wearing our marketing hat as to whether or not we're listening and think to ourselves, wow, that's my ideal client saying that. And I've already heard that 4 times this week. So what does that mean from a marketing point of view? We're listening for these little tiny trigger words or trigger sentences that can help us understand our ideal audience a little bit more. Of course, you can always survey your audience, or you could even call a percentage of them on the phone. Actually pick up the phone and say hello and ask them some very specific questions that can help you decide who your ideal audience is. So my very long point, is that you don't have to be everywhere and you don't have to be doing everything. You just need to be where your buyers are. Simple. Not easy, but simple. This might take some time to work out, because marketing is all about test and measure. And failure, remember, is learning. So go and experiment. And of course, watch your insights, your Google Analytics, and track your sales. For instance, if I said to you face to face, maybe we're having a coffee and I say to you, where did your last 20 sales come from? Can you trace those sales from lead to list to sale to fan? So I'll say that again. Can you trace them from lead to list to sale to fan? If not, why not? Why don't you, if you can't tell where your sales are coming from, then again, you're missing a key part of knowing where you should be spending your time. This stuff is the kind of stuff we need to track. That way you can see in black and white, no grey area whatsoever, where you need to be spending your time, because you can see that your sales or your leads that turn into sales are coming from, for instance, Instagram or your podcast or whatever. Heading back to what I said earlier, that we're not doing this stuff for fun. As business owners, we are doing this stuff to turn leads into sales. So where are your leads coming from that are turning into sales? If you want to do some more work on ideal client, maybe I've said something that has really, kind of made you sit back and go, yeah, I haven't done this for a little while. I need to sit back and redo my ideal client. Or perhaps even, maybe you've never sat down and done a profile on your ideal client. Well, I have a workbook that I will share with you. So it's actually connected to my Facebook Ads for Beginners course that I have. But I thought rather than redesigning it, I would just share the workbook that goes with that. So a bit of a bonus for you. So you can find that at bit.ly/ICA Gen with 2 N's. So ICA standing for Ideal Customer Avatar. So bit.ly, bit.ly, ICA Gen, Gen. So go there and go through the workbook. Answer the questions, do the work. And of course, you can always go and listen back, all the way back at episode 25, which was all about get to know your ideal client. That might help you, go through this process and learning a little bit more about your ideal client as well. So they're 2 resources. Of course, you can find both those links at socialmediaandmarketing.com.au/114, which are the show notes for this episode. So I really hope that this has helped you. And next time you see me talking about TikTok or Clubhouse or someone else saying they've had 100 sales come from their Instagram Reels and you think, wow, maybe I should be doing that too, come back and listen to this episode. Or do the work on your ideal client. Do it often. Again, it's not a set and forget thing. Do the test and measuring in your marketing. Watch your numbers, watch your figures, know where your leads are coming from that are turning into sales, and then have the confidence in knowing where your ideal client is hanging out. Have the confidence in your business model. So when you hear people talking about amazing things that have happened and you think maybe I need to be on that chase the squirrel type of thing, you won't, because you won't get distracted, because you know you've done the work, you know where you need to hang out. You can see it in black and white because you're tracking your leads and your sales, and you won't get distracted from your own path. Now, I'm all about chasing things down. Don't worry. I don't want to put it out there that chasing bright, shiny objects or squirrels is always a bad thing. I'm all about experimenting and finding your groove. In fact, I'm about to launch a women in business retreat. I've never done anything like that before. Some people might say that's a bit of a squirrel that I'm chasing, but it's like, I just want to have a go at doing one, see whether it's something that I like doing, see whether it's something that could be profitable for me. And so, I'm just testing and measuring and giving it a go. So I'm not about chasing squirrels, but I am about being distracted all the time, and therefore not really honing down on where you should be and what you should be delivering to that ideal client, the one that is going to pay you money. So don't be afraid to venture, but do it wisely, and always put those words over the top. The words I love to hate. For what purpose? There's a whole other podcast on for what purpose. which is episode 37. So again, socialmediamarketing.com.au/37. And you can go and learn all about for what purpose and why I love to hate those words. But it's a great lens to put over any business decision that you are thinking about doing. Knowing your ideal client back to front is the key basically to your success and to using your time wisely, of course, and investing in the process and doing the work. So go and do some work on your ideal client. Find out where they're hanging out and where is the best place for you to be spending your time and your marketing dollars so that you can grow a profitable business. But that's it. Episode 114, just something that came off the back of a little comment inside Like-Minded Business Owners that I just wanted to discuss here on the podcast. Of course, I will be back next Thursday for 115, but I'm sure that we will chat between now and then. Have a fabulous week, whatever and whoever it brings to you. And if you're enjoying this podcast, well, make sure you hit the subscribe button and maybe even share this episode with another small business owner who's doing that daily grind, who perhaps would like to work on their ideal client as well and find out where they're hanging out so they can make their business more profitable and use their time more wisely. I'd appreciate a rating and review if you have 30 seconds to give in your day. That would be awesome. I love creating this free content, but I also love hearing that you're loving it as well. I will see you next week, but whatever you do, remember my small business peeps. As my opening song says, there is no point in dreaming small.
No point in dreaming small.